going on, everybody? Welcome to The Obsession. Thanks for listening today. I'm Karl Bethke.
I'm Mike Stadler.
We got a question here, Mike. This one's going to be a little difficult because, I don't know, you can't just bring it down to one as far as I'm concerned. But the question is, what do you guys think the best enhancement for any hunting property is?
I think one way I can make this a little easier
That.
is I think that so you say you're going to pick one enhancement. I think that would depend on the size of your property.
That and what your property doesn't have.
And what your property doesn't have yet.
Oh.
And that I think you could do. One thing obviously would benefit you then.
Right.
But
but there's so much you have to put into
oh
it.
God, yeah. And everybody that listens to us, we're sorry that you listen to us, but we talk about all the stuff to do. The food and bedding are always going to be your two biggest attributes to any property or surrounding property.
100%. Well, when you look at your property, for let's take your place for instance, BMR. So, food-wise, you put in what the neighbors don't provide because you have food all the way around you.
Yes. Yeah, food on three sides of me. So the food, I have food.
For you, it was a no-brainer.
So, yeah, I put in bedding, more bedding areas.
Right.
Or enhanced my bedding areas.
And the reason you did that...
Well, I want them to bed here, because they already have the food.
Right.
So now I'm trying to enable myself to get around them returning or going to my bedding from their food. And so I'm using their food in my favor.
Correct. And then the other reason you put food in on your property is you have to have food for the fall.
Well, yeah, my food's for fall.
Because their food that the farmers plant is gone.
Yeah, it's all harvested. It's picked or harvested already and it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So, my corn, which we saw last year, was untouched.
Right.
Untouched until...
And it's right on the tree line.
Yeah. November, I would say around gun season, they started to trickle in the corn. Mm-hmm. And I think that was because of pressure.
Probably.
They were pressured over to this side of the property, which is where I want them.
Right.
So, the bedding is directly off that.
100%.
So, yeah, the best enhancement, I think you have to evaluate what you have and what's around you a lot to do that. Unless you own the block.
Yeah. That's a whole new program then.
But and like yours, what's the first few things that we had to do at your property when you bought it and it was raw? Because like your property, everything around you is the same. Mm-hmm. Across the road, to the east, the west, the north, it's the same type of lay of land.
Right. But yeah, for me, the number one enhancement for my property was putting food on it.
Correct.
Because my property had no food on it. And it had switchgrass and goldenrod and woods and bedding and transition galore.
Yep.
But it had no food.
Yep. And so did everything else around you.
So did everything else around me. The neighbor to the west, his statement to me was, you have deer on your property because I have a cornfield. Mm-hmm. When I first bought that property, he's 100% right. Oh, yeah. Not gonna lie.
Yep.
Who's got the deer now?
Correct.
Now, you also have to take into consideration, your neighbors and their goals, mm-hmm. and your goals. You've got a really good neighbor here. Mm-hmm. I've got quite a few good neighbors around me. The difference, now I'm not sure what you have here. You've got pretty good gun pressure around you too.
Yeah.
But you've got all the bedding, so if they stay here, they're safe.
Right.
Me, I got a lot of gun hunting all the way around me. And it's hard to hold a deer to bed directly on my property.
Yeah.
So we lose a few bucks every year due to that. But now with the food plot program that we've implemented and increase the bedding close to the food.
Hopefully we can switch that around.
Yeah. And, we're doing pretty good. We're seeing some pretty mature deer down there. And you've got the same thing going on here too.
Yeah. And everything you do is an enhancement to your property.
Yeah.
Well, it should be an enhancement to your property.
Should be deer.
Because your property and my property 1,000,000% are for one thing
Oh yeah.
and one thing only,
Yep.
and that is for whitetail hunting.
Yep. I actually told my neighbor that the other day
Yeah.
when we were talking to the neighbor guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's like, well, so you bought the property for hunting? I said, 100%.
Yeah.
That's it.
And so did I. I just had the luxury that we had a building site that we wanted.
Right.
Other than that,
The house.
I didn't care.
Oh yeah.
My wife cared. I didn't care.
No. There's two separate
Yeah.
levels of goals there.
Don't get me wrong, I love my house.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
She
yeah.
talked to me yesterday. She's like, "Oh, I'd like to get a horse. I ride a horse on the trails." And I looked at her. I said, "Did you just lose your effing mind?
Yeah.
Like, you will never ride a horse in my woods." And I said, "My woods."
That's right.
She's like, "Well, we could put a little barn up in a cornfield." I'm like,
What?
"Is crack for sale at Shopko?" Because it ain't happening.
Yeah.
Like, it,
If you
and-
ask my wife, she refers to our land as your land.
Yeah,
my
right.
land. It's my
Yeah.
land. And if you look at the title, it says Karl Bethke.
Correct.
It doesn't say Carl and Catherine.
Mine says that too, but it probably wouldn't matter.
Well, underneath it says secondary owner
Yeah.
Catherine Bethke. So,
There's that whole secondary
so
owner thing.
if I keep talking like this, it might be hers.
I'm just gonna
anyway,
say
so.
primary owner, Kathy Becky.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, I mean, I have been working on this since day one, since I purchased it. You have been working on yours day one since you purchased it.
Yep.
We both have been working together on both of them now.
Yep.
And that's all we continue to do year round,
Mm-hmm.
forever. By the time we die, somebody should buy these properties because
You guys will shoot some good.
you're going to kill some big deer. Because we'll have them ready.
We did that
You know.
before. Take the lease.
I know. 11 years.
Yeah.
And we've had that set up, and boy, I tell you.
We shoot good deer off that property every frickin' year, and the guys with us wouldn't shoot a damn thing because during the hunting season they go duck hunt.
Yeah.
Duck hunt, Mike.
Duck hunt.
And
Sounds
then
good.
And then they hated us
Yeah,
because we shot whitetails.
right. Yeah, I mean, anything you do, cut a trail in, put a food plot in, clear trees, hinge trees, everything's an enhancement. Everything has to work with what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think there's not one enhancement that you can do. Maybe there's one thing like, all right, if I do this is going to help me.
Mm-hmm.
So then, is it beneficial?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beneficial. If you're like, well, I'm gonna cut these two trees down because I don't like them. Okay, so what is that doing for you? It's not doing anything for you.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's not going to benefit your deer hunting, then don't do it.
I
You bought the land for hunting.
I just, like, we're gonna go out today.
Yep.
And we're gonna hinge back some trees, and it's gonna be a pain in the ass.
It is.
And we're gonna hinge them back because we don't want them dropping the hickory nuts out into where the food plot is,
Correct.
and we also want the cover back behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And it also opens up our canopy for our undergrowth of trees that we do want to grow.
Correct.
So one act is now benefiting 3 different things.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other part of it too. Number one thing is, let's just say it. I'm assuming that this guy or person who asked us, it didn't have a name. This person who asked us this question basically was like, well, what should I do first?
Yeah.
That should have been the question.
Right.
But
That's a
then the
good
only
question.
reason we can really give you an answer on that would be, well, what's around you?
Yeah, we'd have to evaluate the property.
Because you can't send me a picture of a 40-acre woods and go, well, what should I do first, when I can't see if this guy's got 200 acres of corn and this guy's got
Right.
100 acres of soybean. So all that matters. It's all very important. Look at what your surrounding area is, look at what you have, and then make the decision on number one thing to do would be what's going to enhance your deer hunting the best. And remember, there's always something to do on your property.
Yes.
I'm not saying you have to take 100% of your acreage and improve it, because there's a lot of your acreage that probably doesn't need improvement.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you should leave alone.
Yeah,
Because
100%.
you're gonna hurt yourself.
Next
more.
week, Mike and I are going to go in. We're going to go in on one of my places. I walked around yesterday, and one of my spots, I'm going to ask him what he thinks. And I know what I think already. Together, we'll make an idea of whether or not we should do it. But I have bedding kind of partway up a ridge. I can bring that bedding down further, which opening up the canopy on some maples. Because right now, there's no undergrowth in that area.
Yeah, it's open.
And there's a real heavy deer trail across through there. I got a box scrape in there with a tree stand and a camera, obviously, and every one of my single deer hits, or my big deer hits that. We can enhance that by doing a little bit of hinge cutting. So I'm gonna get his view on it. We'll talk about it, and then we'll go from there. Obviously, we'll film it because that's what we do.
Yeah, I think, like Karl's saying, you gotta evaluate what you've got, evaluate what's around you. Because we've said this in a ton of different podcasts, you're also a slave to your neighbors. This is what they're doing. Most people that I know don't put hardly any time into it.
No.
They go sit in a stand and be like, I shot a deer out of this stand once.
Yep.
Oh, sit here.
The other
wind's wrong. I don't care.
Yeah. The other part I've noticed too is your neighbors will adapt to all the improvements you've made too.
Yep.
From your neighbor did it here to you. And more power to him. It's on his property. It is what it is. But at that point, it changes a little bit of deer movement, which I think is probably going to actually enhance your abilities here. And you gotta watch the way your neighbors hunt too, and maybe change your strategies throughout the year. It's not always about enhancing your property. Sometimes it's about enhancing your mind to adapt to certain situations that you don't have control of.
You can get, if you don't trust your own judgments, you can hire people to come out and look. People will set your property up for you.
Yeah.
We've helped people out with things, but it's not free.
No.
So if if you want people to help you out, people aren't going to take spend a full day on your property, walking it, running drones, checking your elevations and checking your soils and, and say, there you go.
Well, you might remember this last year. We were walking around, we're shooting broadhead together, and a guy comes up and he's like, hey, you guys. He was talking, he knows about our stuff and knows what we've done and accomplished and knows that we go and do some stuff with people. He's like, hey, yeah, can you come out and check out our stuff? And I said to him, well, yeah, and it's this much money.
Oh, I thought maybe you'd just come out and walk around.
Yeah.
No.
Not so much. I don't have a ton of time to come out, assess your property, give you a whole layout plan, and take 15 to 20 hours to do it, and then just give it to you for free.
Right.
I like to help people. That's what this podcast is about. This podcast is about helping each and every one of you guys with the questions you want answered. And that's what we're trying to do here, like we're saying. Just enhancement-wise, pick what your neighbors don't have. Make that your first enhancement. You're going to see increase in deer activity on your property, I think. And then it'll progress from there. And how much time do you have to spend on it, too? That's another thing. We each have our own priorities. Maybe you've got younger kids or something like that. Mike and I are fortunate enough, our kids are out.
Get out.
Stay out. But that allows us to, spend, even when we're working, we're thinking deer hunting, so it doesn't matter. But spend a lot of time doing what we love to do. So.
Yeah, don't just go do stuff because you think you've seen it on TV or stuff like this. Like I know, for instance, here we talked about my pond. Doing stuff with it, and we talked about it. I talked to another guy about it, and at the end of the day, we decided to leave it alone. Yeah. Because it's better left alone than us trying to dink around with it. I think we hurt ourselves more with our great ideas that we thought they were until we thought about them a lot. And we left it alone. Yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about it multiple times, and that's the other thing too. Look at it different angles too. And if you have a good friend who's a buddy of yours or whatever, has good input, shoots deer all the time, you might want to get his or her input also. That's important. Don't just, when I'm going to say deer hunting, you need to have an open mind. And I'm not the most open-minded person in the world, but fortunate enough, I got a good friend, a couple good friends that I can talk deer hunting about and run it by each other and see what we think. So that's important.
Right.
Property wise, like we said, pick an enhancement, start one, and you're gonna
just start. I would
you're gonna continue to do it.
Yeah, I guess one thing I say, don't do a million things at once.
Yeah.
Don't go in and be like, I'm putting in bedding, I'm putting in all this food, I'm gonna put in water holes.
Right.
because you got to know where you're going to do it all.
Yeah. All this, yeah, it all has to coordinate with itself. So you think about trying to get the deer to just kind of circle on your property.
Yeah.
It's weird, but that's, a way to think about it.
Yeah, like you can do a bedding area. Set your bedding area up 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Figure it out. This is where I want to do my bedding area. Okay, now figure out around that.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to put water in or you want to put food in, now where are you going to do it?
Mm-hmm.
And is it feasible then to hunt it?
Right.
Don't do stuff on your property and now you can't get in.
100%.
Oh no, I did all this and I have a million deer in there. I can't get in there. Well, good job.
Yeah.
You know.
Entrance and exit on all the property is very, very,
Yeah.
very important.
Which is
Should
a lot.
be actually be your number one thing.
That's a lot of reason we did a lot of what we did here.
Yeah.
Is you could not get in and out of there.
Well,
you know. So,
no,
and the same thing with the trails in your property.
Oh yeah.
The
big
levels and the trails. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like all the enhancements in the world don't help if you can't hunt it.
Here's a concept for you. With food and switchgrass, I'm adding 3/4 of a mile of edging on my property this year alone. That's 3/4 of deer movement. 3/4 of a mile of deer movement east-west at different levels. So what's that do? That allows Mike and I to get in easier on the edges based off of wind direction, enter the stands perpendicularly, and have the deer switch or transition levels from top to bottom or bottom to top depending on time of day where we want them to, for their stand locations, so we can kill them. That's what it's all about, is planning that. If you can figure that one out, you're good to go.
Good to go.
Good to go. So hopefully, pick a single enhancement, I guess. Start with that one and work your way from there. Because it all takes time.
Yes.
And do one at a time. Don't do one half-assed and then do another one and then do another one. Because if you don't finish the first one,
Put your property in a 5-year block.
that's a good way to think about it.
I think where you want it to be in 5 years, and it's going to take you that amount of time to get it there. Then when you get to that point, you have to continue it from there. Like it's not, the property's not just going to stay doing it. You have to make it do that.
You're on your 5th year this year.
Yeah, this will be year 5 here,
Yeah.
which we're expecting a lot. I'm expecting a lot. If
Just-
anybody's listening out there,
Just so the deer know.
listen.
Thanks for listening to the Obsession. We appreciate you guys' support. If you get a chance, check out Rush Outdoors WI here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, be sure to ask us here in the comments. You could also ask us on our Facebook page. Check us out also with our RSS feed and The Obsession or Spotify at The Obsession. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for tuning in. Check us out next week.